Well, I'm going to start in on my short little preamble here as people filter in, which is also the reminder that I need to record. Am I recording? That's I'm recording. Perfect. This is great. Well, welcome. I am Nick Burgess, the City of North Liberty's Communications Director, and every year we hold a project open house to talk about major improvements to key infrastructure here in North Liberty. This year, again, we're hosting it virtually, and as we usually hold it in the library for a touch of authenticity, I am hosting myself here in the library. Over the next, let's see. So last week we talked about parks, plans, and projects. This week we're talking about Ranshaw Way and that work from Zeller to Hawkeye. Next week we'll be talking about a future project, which is the Dubuque Street realignment project at Front and Cherry. And then the week after that, in our last one, we'll talk about City Hall and the future civic campus. You can find information, updates, sign up for email alerts at northlibertyiowa.org/projects. That's also where we'll post this video when it's done, as well as updates throughout the summer. So today, we are talking about Ranshaw Way Phase 5, which is improvements from Zeller Street to Hawkeye Drive, including widening that road, trails, side paths, an underpass, and obviously some landscaping in there. Before we get to that, I wanted to start by introducing the project team here today. With me today is City Administrator Ryan Heyer. Ryan, thanks for joining us. Engineer Josiah Bilskumber, who's with Shive Hattery, the engineer on this project. And landscape architect Emily Naylor. She's also with Shive Hattery and has worked on a lot of beautification here in North Liberty. Thank you both for joining us on this too. So let's go back to the locator map here. So this is, again, work that'll be happening on Ranshaw Way between Zeller Street, where we left off at the last project, and all the way down to Hawkeye Drive, which is right about here. So I wanted to bring Ryan Heyer in just to talk a little bit about sort of where we started, how this fits in with some of those previous phases and why now, and some of those other big questions. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for organizing this, Nick. This project has some history, actually. In 2008, shortly after I actually arrived in North Liberty, the city council approved a master plan for then what we called Highway 965. That planning process was, I suppose it took about a year or so, and then early in 2008, they approved the plan. And what I really liked about this process is that it was a joint effort between the city of North Liberty and the city of Coralville. And so what we've called the Highway 965 master plan, now the Ranshaw Way master plan, also extends down to Coral Ridge Avenue in Coralville. So it's a great planning exercise between both communities. So we are what Nick, I think, entitled it the phase between Hawkeye and between Zeller and Hawkeye. We're affectionately calling phase 5 of what we're hoping is 6 phases altogether to complete the master plan. So to date, we've completed 1 through 4. Which has been a total of an investment of about $13 million. This next phase will be a big one at $10 million roughly. And then phase 6, we actually anticipate to be at about an $11 million project. And phase 6 will take us from Herky down to Forever Green Road. So when this master plan is totally built out, and we're anticipating about $38 million in investments. And by that time, we'll hope to have close to 8 or 9 million of federal dollars that supplement this project, all 6 phases. So why now? Well, what we started at the top, at the north end, and are just working our way down. And in fact, our first phase, we actually hit a number of intersections throughout the entire length of Ranshaw Way, the really bad intersections that needed the turn lanes or the traffic signals. And so then after that project was done, and that was, I think, 09 or 10, then we started up at, I'm sure you're familiar with the Scales Bend intersection, and have just been working our way down. So I'm excited for this project, but really excited to have the whole master plan completed. It's kind of nice to see a project from start to finish. And while obviously we're focused on this project, I'll note that phase 6 is anticipated for 25 calendar year 25 or 26, depending on when the federal money is available. So that's kind of in a nutshell where we've been and where we're going to go, and hopefully here in May you'll see phase 5 being kicked off.
Great, thank you so much, Ryan. And I should have mentioned at the top, as we go, if folks have questions, we will have some question and answers at the end. There is a chat box there at the bottom of your screen, where you can just type in those questions that you've got. And I did want to. As I was digging up old master plans, I found I love these figures from 1999 of the original Highway 965 master plan. They predate everybody here. My favorite parts are that it notes Fairway as a site instead of an actual store. That Jones Boulevard is one of the corporate limits of North Liberty. And we're talking about 4-way stops. This is really exciting stuff. 4-way stops at Penn in 965. So there's not much out there yet. So this has been a long time coming. This has been a major arterial for a long time. We've paid a lot of attention to it. As Ryan mentioned, we do have the master plan that we worked on with Coralville, and we've stuck pretty much to it. This is the North Liberty intersection sort of examples that we've been using throughout. And I did want to bring Emily in to talk a little bit about transitioning, right, that old rural highway to what is now this urban road, and why, like, when we talk about why we pay attention to not just the functionality, but maybe some of those other parts and what those can do for us. So Emily, let's talk a little bit about landscaping before we talk about the specifics, but why do we do sort of landscaping and care about those things at all when we're doing transportation projects?
Sure, Nick. Well, streets account for the largest amount of public space in North Liberty. It's really a public corridor, and we really try to follow those contemporary planning practices that aim to make streets more than just vehicles going from point A to point B. So we really want to consider safe circulation for pedestrians, cyclists, drivers, and users of public transit. In addition to building on the Highway 965 or Ranshaw Way master plan and completing that continuous aesthetic character, we also are looking at layering other ways to denote North Liberty and that community character and tie it in community-wide. So not only are we looking at this phase 5 as an opportunity to extend the original master plan theme, but also start to layer in some of those other points to tie community character. It's really one of your strongest, most almost considered a billboard for your community. It's a way to really repeat that community identity, so people really understand when they're in North Liberty. This is a slide. This is from our community identity master plan completed last year. We completed this along with De Novo, alternative marketing firm De Novo, who envisioned the new logo and branding for your community. And really what this is saying is, how can we start to add in those layers? What makes North Liberty special? We all know those places and spaces that we like to visit or are iconic, or just speak to something that's unique. And that's really what we're trying to do with some of the improvements around town. And certainly with the streetscape, there's some very, very specific elements here that are going to be very unique to North Liberty and may serve as destinations in themselves. So we'll show you a little bit here in a second.
Well, great, thank you, Emily. I'm hoping to bring in Michael Pentecost, who I think has joined us. Michael, are you to talk us through sort of what the current conditions are? Obviously, a lot of folks drive Ranshaw Way every day, but when we talk about transportation projects, we really do talk a lot of we have to sort of deal with what's there, and because that really can impact the project. So, Michael, can we talk a little bit about sort of what's out there right now?
Yeah, can you hear me, Nick?
I sure can, buddy.
Okay, sorry, I'm out in the field right now, but so right now, obviously, as Ryan talked about, the project's extending from the north to the south. You have your 5 lanes and your 2 lanes on the outsides, turning lanes. And so as you wind your way down to the south, obviously that narrows up to the 2-lane road in different parts. And it's a great example of where you start to get your bottleneck. So as you're trying to flow that traffic through north to south, you've got your bottleneck points. And so this project helps remove those, helps open those areas up. And that helps for a number of reasons. It helps with traffic flow. It helps with safety. It helps with did I lose you? Or you still got me?
You're still there, Michael.
Okay, sorry.
All right, we're getting a live report from the field. This is great. And there we lost him. So thank you, Michael. That was a live report, breaking news from the field. Michael Pentecost, our street superintendent. That was great. So obviously we're trying to solve some of those problems about efficiency. How do we move different types of traffic, whether it's bikes or pedestrians or cars through that area? We're also working on through a variety of constraints. We've got the 8380 project, which we have to consider as we make plans here for this project. We've got to think about how we time this project based on other projects in town. The big one, and this is always a big one, and it's the biggest uncontrolled factor is weather, and that's something that we try to plan around, and we'll talk a little bit more about how we work around weather and sort of build in some space weather. And Michael's back with another breaking news report.
Sorry, I had another call come in and it kicked me out. So, but basically, for example, when my crew's out there trying to make repairs or patchwork on these sections, when you're in 2 lanes, it's pretty difficult to do that. Or the gravel shoulders, those are a high maintenance area to continue to keep safe. And so these projects, they take care of that. We go to a curb and gutter system, and it just really helps to improve and bring things up to the traffic flow that is going through there.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate that a lot, and maybe we'll let you. If you're welcome to stick with us, of course, but you need to get back out.
Nope, I'm good. I'll stay on mute here, and then you can get a hold of me if some other questions come up.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So again, this is the current conditions. This is an aerial shot from the past year. So let's get into this project in particular, and let's start with Josiah to sort of take us through sort of a quick overview of what the plans are for the finished product.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Nick. This graphic here does provide a sort of high level overview of the project. As everybody's mentioned, we're starting at Zeller and continuing south down to Hawkeye Drive. For this portion of it, if I just start at the north end and sort of work my way south, notable improvements will be we will rebuild the remaining fourth corner of the Zeller Street intersection. The other three were done during the phase 3 project, and now everything's ready for that fourth corner to be redone, correct, and match that intersection. That's that major intersection type of plan for the city. The overhead utility lines, like we've done in other sections to the north, are in the process of being removed and buried underground. So you'll see that happening here in the next month or two, where some of those overhead lines are going to start disappearing. We do have a major reconstruction of Westwood Drive intersection. We're redoing all four corners, updating the ramps and the crossing push buttons. We're also adding pavement on both the east and west side of Westwood, redoing that pavement and adding a left turn lane from each direction, which would be a nice change there. And that will also impact 2 of the 4 signal poles being replaced. As a whole, the project is going to continue the 10-foot trail all the way down the west side. So that will now continue from Zeller all the way down to Hawkeye. And the 5-foot sidewalk on the east side will be continued again from Zeller to Hawkeye. We've got a couple spots in here where we have room in the right-of-way available. So we'll have a couple stormwater biocells built and placed in there to help slow down and improve stormwater runoff before it heads onto the creeks. And then at the very south end, the sort of the major components outside of obviously reconstructing the street would be adding a new pedestrian underpass, which Nick is circling there. And just to the north of that a bit, there's like where Quail Creek comes through there, there's a pretty large drainage culvert, and we'll need to extend that on each side as well. So those are the aerial highlights. Nick, do you have that typical section drawing? Yeah, perfect. And of course, so looking at the roadway from the side, we'll continue what we've started at the north end. It's nice improvement here that we have room for a landscape median through portions of this project. So we'll have 2 lanes north and south, and then we'll have a landscape median in between those sections. We'll still have dedicated left turn lanes at the intersections and at the commercial entrance. You can see the trail and the sidewalk here, and then also we'll have a new trail lighting and new roadway lighting.
All right. And so before we get into the phasing, I want to come back to Emily and talk through sort of that underpass and some of that landscaping in this particular project. So this is kind of the artist's rendering, I suppose, of what we've got going on. Emily, you want to sort of talk us through these?
North is again to the right there. We've got the golf course is top of screen, and City Hall is kind of up to the left off to the corner. There you go, just for orientation. So really what we're showing here is this application of blending the existing Ranshaw corridor master plan and some of the improvements, as Josiah said, that fourth corner being built up, it's all going to be the same. But then how do we start to layer in some of these other elements that we're picking up in other places? You know, the Dubuque Street roundabout, the parklet new parklet near Centennial Park. So you're seeing along the median there swaths of landscaped areas, unique to Ranshaw, but reminiscent of some of the plant material and things that you'll see in other places in town, such as along Penn Street. So as you're coming down the bike trail, you can descend down to cross under, and this is, you know, a very engineered solution. We have to get people down and at a certain percentage, and we just try to add a little bit of interest there. It's not such a straight shot, and we have, again, just building out the plant palette. The city does such a great job with keeping things looking great, and we've really kind of refined that palette, things that are easy to maintain. And since we have to have this kind of an engineered solution, this kind of hard, crisp wall, we took the opportunity to put a playful additive there. And what we have there is some just a unique, artistic element. It's to speak of the bike and the pedestrian connection there. We've got oversized bike gears, and I think the next slide shows that a little bit closer up. Some of the bike shapes or the gear shapes are sandblasted into the wall, and then we've got some that are aluminum affixed directly to the wall, and then some that stand out that actually will glow at night. So it gives a little bit of interest, and again, almost serves as a destination. Some people like to go out and come back a certain way, and this just might be somebody's preferred trip, maybe as the sun's setting, just to go out and see the lights when they come on. So just again, trying to add in those layers of additional interest and flavor to the community. So I'm looking for unique opportunities in all of the public projects that we do, and really spreading those dollars and getting more bang for the buck.
Thank you so much, Emily. So Josiah, let's talk a little bit about how we get here. Obviously, it's not all underpasses, and it's not all landscaping. It is a road, and so let's talk a little bit about phasing. Let me go back up to let's go to this one. Josiah, can you take us through we're not doing this all at once. So let's sort of talk about the different stages within this project.
Sure. So the way we have this project planned out and anticipate happening is there's sort of 4 main phases. Phase 1, 2, and 3 would be all of the portion of the project from Zeller to the Fairview Lane, Golfview Drive intersection. Yep, right there. So that's phase 1, 2, and 3. And then phase 4 is what we're calling everything at the south end, that south block from Fairview to Hawkeye. In general, this is how it's laid out. Phase 1 is the chance for the contractor to put down temporary surfacing, temporary roadway lanes on the west side of the road. So that's a fairly short duration. There'll be some traffic shifted over, but they'll pave temporary lanes there, kind of where you would see the gravel shoulder today on that west side. Once that's done, all the traffic will then be shifted to the west side using the existing lane on the street, plus that new temporary paving, and all of the new roadway work and portion of the median work will be completed on the east side of the road from Zeller to Fairview. Yep, so they're going to be working on that east side while traffic is shifted over to the west side. Again, that traffic that's shifted over will have 1 lane in each direction, like it is today, except for obviously it gets wider at the intersections. So that's phase 2. They build the east side while everybody's shifted to the west side. And when they finish phase 2, they now have 2 new lanes that they built of the roadway. And so we will now shift the traffic over to that side of the road. And phase 3 is when they complete the widening on the west side. So it's the half and half method. I will note that at Westwood Drive intersection, where we're reconstructing that, there will be a portion of the time when both the east and west half are closed fully for reconstruction. They will not happen simultaneously. So when the east side's closed, the west side will be open, and vice versa. And there will still always remain access to commercial centers, but to get that construction done better, we will allow them to close each half of that intersection for a time to tear out the pavement and re-pour it.
Okay.
So that's 1, 2, and 3, and then phase 4 is that south section, and that's the section where we're going to have a full closure of Ranshaw. Yep, right there. So again, on this map, north is to the right. That phase 4 green section, that's the work zone from Fairview to Hawkeye. That's where we'll have a full road closure, and is going to allow the contractor to safely and more quickly get that road torn out. It's also going to allow them to do the box culvert extension work that they need to do at the low point in the roadway, and then that's on both sides of the road. And then obviously to complete the excavation and installation of the pedestrian underpass, which again is going right under through the road. And it's the tunnel itself plus the associated retaining walls needed to hold back that elevation difference. So during that phase 4 closure, what this map shows is we're going to basically have 2 detour routes signed. There's going to be a east side, North Liberty east side, and North Liberty west side detour, depending on where ultimately you're going in North Liberty. And so that's using Front Street on the east and Jones Boulevard on the west.
So let's talk a little bit about that full closure. There's 2 things I want to talk about is sort of what that timeline looks like, as far as that's the last part of the project. How do we make and what steps are we taking to try to encourage that contractor to both get it done quickly, as well as to not have that extend through, say, winter. Right. So let's talk first off. How long do we expect that final phase, that detour phase, to take?
So what we did with the DOT is looked at the amount of work that they need to do there, and obviously try and come up with a reasonable assessment of, okay, what's a reasonable time length for them to get this done appropriately. And so that is, I think it's 10 or 11 weeks is what they are allowing them in the contract. So what the city is doing, working with the DOT, because as you point out, we don't want this thing closed over the winter. So we worked with them to do a couple things. One, we're setting a hard deadline date this year where, hey, if you haven't decided if you're going to start that closure by this time, then you need to wait until the spring of 2022. So the city retains some control over someone just saying, hey, we're going to shut this down late in the year and just trust us. So we have a protection there. The other thing we're doing is providing an incentive. It's really an incentive and a disincentive structure. So once that contractor shuts that road down, he's on the clock, and that daily count is running. We're offering.
So let me. So just before we decide, let me just stop you there. So when we talk about one of the ways we work with projects is we have working days, right? Mm-hmm. And a contractor essentially they have days that are currency that they can spend, and every day, whether they're working or not, it's on the clock and it counts against them, right? So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and actually, this is even more restrictive than that, because a working day is technically a day where they can work. So if it rains, they don't get penalized. But with this road closure, this is actually a critical closure activity. So they have a calendar day count, which means no matter the weather, no matter what, they are on the clock and those days are burning. So that's that hard deadline to protect us. But like I was saying, there's an incentive and disincentive. So there's actually a monetary incentive for every single day. If they can get this done early, they earn a monetary incentive. And likewise, if they run out of the time that they were allotted, every single day that they miss and that road stays closed, they're getting charged a penalty fee, and that keeps counting. So that really helps to focus the contractor's attention, and get them to really try and coordinate with their subs and stay on top of it. Not only to aim for that monetary incentive, but they don't want to get charged the disincentive either.
Right. So that contractor, they're looking at sort of all the other projects that they're working on across the area and the state. They might see that deadline coming up and full crews, so they can extend their working hours in the day and start working weekends and things like that. This is the mechanism that we have to push them to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So you mentioned sort of this decision deadline that we've got in there, and that's at the end of August.
That's correct. Yep.
And so typically the work can happen until it starts to snow, right? So we can typically see some road work projects happen into November or late November. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And we don't want them to push it too much beyond November. So that's what that deadline date was set there for. That being said, the contractor has flexibility again to schedule phase 4 this year and get after it. There's actually another incentive in the project for the contractor to get all of the project work done this year. That's separate from the other one we talked about. So again, it provides an incentive for them to get moving, to get coordinated, and get this going this year. They do have the flexibility of starting phase 4 next spring, if that works out, and that's how they want to do it. They would lose out on the incentive bonus to get the whole project done in 21. But again, even if they wait until the spring of 2022, they'll shut that road down on a certain day. And again, those calendar days will start counting and we're back into our disincentive. So the bottom line there is no matter which year they start it, they're going to be under the clock and have the incentive and disincentive to get that road back open to traffic and minimize this closure time and this detour.
Great, thank you for taking us through that, Josiah. So obviously weather is going to play a big part of the schedule, regardless of other factors. Are there other things that we might discover once the project starts? I mean, it's an old state highway, and that means who knows what's out there, right?
Yeah, I would say that's always a possibility. There's things underground that we don't know about. We may have bad soils at particular spots that take a couple extra days to deal with. We may have abandoned utilities or things that no one knows about. So yeah, there's always an opportunity to find out things you didn't know about once you start digging in the ground.
Okay. Well, great. I'd like to open it up to questions that folks in the audience might have, unless there's something else that we really need to make sure that we make a point of before we get to that. A couple of questions. We'll start with this. So let's talk about the pedestrian underpass. The location of the underpass, we've talked, I think, a variety of times about it. Why is it where it is as opposed to maybe closer to Fairview or elsewhere?
Yeah, so the pedestrian underpass is, we were pretty limited in this section. Most of the roadway from Fairview going north to Zeller is either there's not much relief or there is commercial and residential built out right out to the edge of the right of way. So this has been targeted, and even going back to that long range planning document, this was sort of identified as, for some of those reasons, the section where this pedestrian tunnel would most likely be located, which is between Fairview and Hawkeye. And really, we looked at two different locations there. As far as moving it north, the nearest place you could put it is right where that box culvert is, where the creek comes through. Yep, right there. We found some issues and like long-term use issues and construction issues. Based on the depth of that pedestrian tunnel, building right next to the creek presented issues with construction and also water running through that pedestrian tunnel. Yeah. Anytime those flows got relatively high, and so that pedestrian tunnel would then be shut down. So ultimately we found a spot further to the south where we had some opportunity for ground on either side of the roadway to take care of that drop that you need, like Emily was talking about. You can only come down at a certain grade, and so you need length to get down under the road into that tunnel section. So that's the location where we designed for, and obviously that also pulls you further away from the creek and allows you to get drainage in and around that tunnel and still have positive flow away from the tunnel area down to the creek.
Great. And then another question is, will there be an underpass closer to Forever Green as part of the project down there?
Yeah, in that in that concept we have for the next phase of this, phase 6, that does have another pedestrian underpass planned closer. I don't know the exact location, but yes, closer to Forever Green.
Okay. And then I just want to make sure that we address why don't we just detour folks down Spartan and Hawkeye right there, instead of all the way around up Jones and up front.
Oh, yeah. So Spartan and Hawkeye are on the east side there, near the mobile home park, and the bottom line is those are private streets owned by that development, so they're not even eligible. And of course, you wouldn't want to detour that traffic on those streets through that, right next to those homes.
Great.
Nick, could I make a quick point on the underpass?
Please do.
I know it seems like a peculiar location right now, but I suspect when the Cherry Street one was put in, there wasn't a whole lot up there as well, and there's a tremendous amount of potential just south of that underpass. So I think from a long range planning standpoint, it'll be very beneficial for pedestrian and bicycle access.
And just to add on that, on what Ryan's saying too, there are further to the north multiple traffic signal crossing locations. So you have those crossing locations further up. They're just not tunnels.
Great. Thank you, folks. So I don't have it. There's no more questions in the Q&A box. I do want to put up my contact information for folks, so that over the course of the summer, as you're getting angry about and want to know more about this project, there's my office number and my email address. But of course, you can visit northlibertyowa.org/projects. We'll post updates as they happen there over the summer, and you can sign up right there to get them emailed to you, right to your inbox, or you can certainly just peruse them there as we go. This recording will be posted at that same spot as well once we're done. You can also go and see our presentation about parks and trails that we did last week. So next week, we're going to talk about Dubuque Street and the realignment there at Cherry and Front Street. And then on the 26th, again, we'll be talking about the City Hall and the future of Civic Center. My contact information was there, and appreciate folks. Oh, wait, one more question before right in under the wire. Will the 10-foot path be connected to the north from Penn to Fairview in the areas it doesn't exist right now? North from Penn to Fairview. Oh, I think that's referring to the. Is that referring to the on the east side of that segment? There is a break from Penn to. Well, I'm sorry, from Cherry to Zeller right now on the east side, and I think the intent. I think so there will be path. Correct, on the west side, all the way from Zeller to Fairview.
That's correct.
We don't have a connection on the east side from Cherry to Zeller because of property, but that was just a side path. Maybe somebody can save me and answer this question.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. Yeah, we had kind of a messy situation there in terms of our ability to get an easement that we needed in the timeline that the DOT wanted it for us to proceed with that phase. So we did some grading there with that project, but what we anticipate seeing is when that site redevelops, then the sidewalk will be installed. We don't have a timeline for that, obviously, because it's private property, and it'll depend on when a development occurs there. But yeah, it's planned for.
Yep, and we go through that trail priorities every year and incorporate that into our CIP, into our capital improvement plan. And so I would expect to look at it at that point as well. So, With that, we'll wrap this up. If you have more questions occur to you after the fact, go ahead and email me, nbergus@northlibertyiowa.org, or give me a call. That's my office line, 319-626-5756. You can also, of course, visit northlibertyiowa.org/projects to get updates and to stay up to date on what we're doing infrastructure-wise. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us next week. Again, we'll talk about Dubuque Street and the realignment there. It's planned for a couple years out. Thanks so much.